For 100 years, this file remained closed, believed to be lost. Then, only a few months ago, it resurfaced from the archives. And what it contains is not a story passed from mouth to mouth. It is documents, signed medical records. The statements of 3 doctors who examined him before and after, written in black and white. They prove that something happened in just a few days to this man, a soldier whom the war had reduced to a wreck, paralyzed, sent away to die in a hospice for incurables. Something that medicine still cannot explain today. It is all written down, it is all proven. And for a century, no one was able to read it. This is not the account of a silent healing that took place in the shadows of a room. It is a case so solid that it even put the British state in difficulty and managed to make its way through 100 years of bureaucratic oblivion before resurfacing, intact only a few months ago. The story begins in the mud of the First World War. John Traynor, whom everyone in Liverpool called Jack, was a young sailor in the Royal Navy. He had a simple and deep faith inherited from a mother who had died far too soon. In 1915, during the Gallipoli campaign, he came under machine gun fire. The bullets struck him in the head, chest, and arm. When the stretcher bearers picked him up, he looked like a corpse. He survived, but the consequences were devastating. His right arm remained completely paralyzed, the nerves severed, and over time it shriveled like a dry branch. The wounds to his head left him with a violent form of epilepsy, with seizures that repeatedly struck him down. To stop the attacks, surgeons attempted an extreme operation, trepanning his skull. The operation failed and left him paralyzed in both legs. The verdict was recorded in the official documents of the British Ministry of Pensions: 100% disabled, incurable, unable to care for himself. His file described a man with no future. Jack would later say that the wound in his head had never fully closed. Beneath the thin skin that covered the scar, he said, he could see it pulsing. At 40 years old, this once strong man was nailed to a government-issued wheelchair, tormented by sores, exhausted, and at the end of his strength. In June 1923, the Military Medical Board concluded that there was nothing more to be done and ordered his permanent admission to an institution for terminally ill patients. Jack knew what it meant to enter that place, and it was precisely in that darkness that he made a decision everyone judged to be suicide. Jack wanted to go to Lourdes. He had learned that the Archdiocese of Liverpool was organizing its first pilgrimage after the war. When he announced it, a storm broke out. His doctor opposed it. The train journey across France, in his condition, would kill him. The Ministry of Pensions refused him permission and warned him that leaving could cost him the allowance for his family. Even his parish priest came to visit him, sat on the edge of his bed, and begged him to give up, fearing he would die on the road. But Jack would not yield. He looked at his wife and told her that he felt in his heart that Our Lady would heal him. Faced with that faith, she made an extreme gesture. She took her ring and the few valuable objects in the house to the pawn shop and gathered enough money for the ticket. Jack was loaded onto the train on a stretcher amid the tears of those convinced they would never see him again. The journey became a Calvary. The train jolted and every movement was pain. Jack's condition worsened hour by hour. More than once, those accompanying him feared he would not arrive alive. But each time he recovered just enough to ask them to keep going, sustained only by a prayer repeated in silence. The train finally reached Lourdes. Jack was alive, but in such desperate condition that he was immediately transferred to the sanctuary hospital under close observation. Right there, as they were taking him to the baths, he suffered a terrible epileptic seizure. Blood poured from his mouth. The doctors were alarmed and wanted to take him back. With his good hand, he locked the wheels of the chair and refused. He wanted to enter the water. On July 25, 1923, Jack was immersed in the water of the spring. The crowd pressed around the sick, the air thick with hymns. 4 stretcher bearers slowly lowered him into the freezing water. Everyone waited for a sign. Nothing happened. Jack was pulled out still motionless, his legs lifeless, his arm dead. Anyone else would have given in to discouragement. But his faith did not waver. That afternoon, they took him to the great esplanade in front of the basilica, where the Eucharistic procession with the blessing of the sick was taking place. Hundreds of people stood in a circle. The priest advanced slowly beneath the canopy, holding the golden monstrance with the Blessed Sacrament. Jack waited, praying. The priest stopped in front of his chair. He raised the monstrance and made the sign of the cross to bless him. In that instant, Jack felt something he would later describe as an explosion inside his body. An intense heat beginning in his paralyzed arm, a burning almost impossible to bear. Then, his legs began to tremble. Before the eyes of those present, he tried to stand. He forced muscles that had not responded for years. The stretcher-bearers were frightened, thinking it was the beginning of another seizure. They grabbed him, forced him back into the chair, and rushed him to his room, convinced he was getting worse. They gave him sedatives, but the process had already begun. The next morning, July 26th, Jack woke before everyone else. He had no more pain. He felt a strength he had not felt in years. Without asking for help, he climbed over the sides of the bed and placed his bare feet on the cold floor. His legs held his weight. He began to walk, then to run through the corridors. Patients and nurses stared at him in disbelief. The day before, he had been an immobile wreck. Jack did not stop. He went out and ran toward the grotto of the apparitions, through pilgrims who stepped aside as he passed. He wanted to thank Our Lady. Some guards, seeing him run, mistook him for a sick man who had escaped from the ward and tried to stop him. He got past them and knelt before the statue of the Immaculate Conception. That same day, he was taken to the Lourdes Medical Bureau for an immediate examination. 3 doctors were waiting for him. The examination lasted hours, and the results left them speechless. The paralysis had vanished. His legs had normal reflexes and toned muscles. His right arm, atrophied and without sensation for 8 years, moved again and had recovered its strength. The epileptic seizures had stopped. The 3 doctors signed a report together declaring the healing immediate and scientifically inexplicable. In Liverpool, the excitement was overwhelming. When the train returned, Lime Street Station was blocked by thousands of people who had come to see with their own eyes. The police had to escort Jack home. He had returned to walking, working, and living, and this is where the most absurd clash took place. The Ministry of Pensions was informed and summoned Jack, determined to remove his disability pension. But the state doctors found themselves facing a paradox. Jack was clearly healthy. He lifted sacks of coal, worked every day. And yet the law had no category for miraculous healing. According to the official records, a man wounded like that at Gallipoli had to remain disabled for life. The state was forced to pay him a 100% pension until the end of his days, because it could not contradict its own records. Jack would live another 20 years in good health, working hard and returning every year to Lourdes as a stretcher-bearer, using his strength to lift the most seriously ill. He died in 1943 from causes entirely unrelated to his war wounds. As early as 1926, the Medical Bureau had declared his healing beyond the forces of nature. And yet, for almost a century, this story never entered the official list of recognized miracles. The reason was not medical or theological doubt, but an enormous human error. In 1926, Dr. Vallée, then head of the Bureau, published the final report on the healing in the Sanctuary's journal. But that decisive document never officially reached the Diocese of Liverpool. Without that signed report, the English bishops could not open the canonical process, and Jack's file ended up buried, forgotten for 100 years, until very recently. In 2023, for the centenary of that first pilgrimage, Dr. Alessandro De Franciscis, the current president of the Lourdes Medical Bureau, decided to get to the bottom of it. He entrusted an English doctor with a search through the archives. Beneath piles of yellowed documents, The original 1926 report resurfaced, intact, with the signatures of the doctors of the time. The documents prove that Jack Traynor's healing was real, immediate, and scientifically inexplicable. The dossier reached the Archbishop of Liverpool, who established a canonical commission and, on December 8, 2024, proclaimed the healing of John Jack Traynor as the 71st official miracle of Lourdes, the first ever involving an English-speaking person. Jack's story reminds us that God's timing is not our timing, and that no bureaucracy and no forgetfulness can hide the light of truth forever. If this testimony has touched your heart, write this prayer in the comments, a prayer each one of us can repeat every day. Lord, open my paths and heal my soul.